Can grab it. Here we go. Hey, it's Tanya Powell. I'm here in cozy North Vancouver, and today I'm chatting with Whit. And go ahead and introduce yourself, Whit.
Hey, I'm Whit. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And what I like to say about myself is I'm a soul experiencing excitement and joy and remembering who I truly am.
Absolutely. We're all souls having this human experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what a time to be alive.
Ooh, is it ever?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
exciting. So today we've had a previous conversation. We really want to tap into maybe some tips and tricks that will help, not really tricks, but ideas that we use on a regular basis that can help people. Whit comes from a little different background than I. I'm super physical, really grounded, a big container, can hold lots of space. I've had tons of addictions in the past, more physical and maybe a little bit mental, but I didn't go down that mental path. So maybe tap into that just so people understand your perspective more.
Yeah, my perspective is around mental health. So I've experienced kind of the 3D, I guess, like depression, anxieties, and things like that, and kind of navigated that as a young person. I'm 36 now, and yeah, just kind of figured out some tools and things that really help me stay grounded and help me kind of like, if I do end up spiraling, kind of work my way out of that in a healthy and grounded way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got yourself off medications, right?
I did. I was on them for, gosh, I don't know how many years, probably over a decade or more. And yeah, it was recently within the past year that I finally was like, you know what? I don't feel like I need these anymore. And just worked with some kind of holistic practitioners and kind of figuring out what would work best for me. And I feel great without them. And I know that's maybe not the case for everyone, but definitely for me, it feels very, very good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So uh, I would liken it almost to similar to addictions, whether it be drinking, drugs, right? That you're covering something up that isn't right within you.
Yep.
And then therefore, by not dealing with that root cause of the problem, you're just putting like a mask on it. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
you have a window and you just paint over the window so you don't have to look at it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And I think probably when I first got on them, I needed that paint maybe
Yeah.
for a bit. I just like wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. And then I slowly, as I like, got a little bit older, if we're gonna go with the paint metaphor of like chipped away at the paint, chipped away, and then really got in there and got to the root of things. I was like, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to face this. But sometimes you're just not. Sometimes this 3D thing is really, really hard and you just got to take incremental steps to get there.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest first steps is to realize that we're actually all being programmed from birth. And so there's the collective or the depending on where you lived and how you were raised, but definitely school would be one for kids in the city. I really feel for them because even daycare, they're not going to grandma's house. They're going into already a system with a program with,
That was me.
yeah. And
That
then
was
of
me.
course I learned the alphabet from Sesame Street, not my right. So
Yep.
definitely TV is a bit of a programmer, radio, and then you go into school. And it's funny because I basically just never really felt like I fit in. And so that's a
Mhm.
really hard thing as a kid, because as a kid, and because especially becoming a teenager, you're like, oh, I just want to fit in so that I don't feel like I'm odd man out. And then once
Mhm.
you realize, oh, this is a gift to not fit in.
Yeah.
And then you can really start to unpack and pull out those things and go, oh, I see it all for what it is. And
Yes.
once you know that, you can't unknow it. And so then it's just this beautiful journey of clearing and remembering and, stepping into your own unique, I would
Mhm.
power within, and you can observe things a lot differently.
Yes.
And let's
Yes.
step into being the observer.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so funny because I think even as a kid, I similar, I didn't fit in and but I was always asking why. I never grew out of that. Like kids are like, why, mommy? Why, daddy? And I think that is a huge part of being an observer of like the why of what is my body, why does my body feel this way, or why am I reacting to that? Why am I triggered by that? And I think that to me is like one of the biggest tools that I have in my toolbox is the curiosity of the why things are occurring for me the way they are in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that curiosity is critical, and the desire, I think it's the desire to know more, to understand. So if I don't fit in here, why don't I fit in? What is this programming that's going on? How does this happen? What's the history of it? And so a lot of people like to call that rabbit holes. And so if you can go in and observe within these rabbit holes and find out what's true for you, I get truth bumps all over my body. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. And I think the other really important thing for people to realize is it's not your fault, and that we have our conscious brain and we have our subconscious, and our subconscious is meant to keep us safe. So it's picking up millions of pieces of information per second, no matter stuff that you wouldn't even realize. So there was a really good video on America's Got Talent. Yeah, of somebody coming on. He shows a video clip to the audience and to the judges, and literally programs them all to draw out the same thing, and everybody holds it up, and everybody drew and it was a simple sunshine. But when you go back to the video and he pointed out, and there's the sun, and there's the sun. And sometimes it's the wording or right? And people just don't realize that at all. And so that's happening at a level in movies, out in the world, in your car, at the airport, like wherever you go, there's certain programming going on the news. The news is very good at programming people. So realizing you have the subconscious and it's not your fault, and it can be reprogrammed. So, it's like going on a digital diet.
Yes.
I can watch any movie now, and I filter it all out because I'm aware of it, which then it drives my kid crazy, but it allows me to observe it in a little bit different way.
Yes.
So then you can do it through programming. You can do hypnosis and meditations. You can do visuals like around the house. I've got certain words or posters up when I'm trying to program something new, and questioning your thoughts and being the observer of your thoughts. Now that you're aware you have a subconscious, and let's finish that first, you get a list of things, and the more something's repeated, the higher it goes on the list. So that's when you see a lot of, you see something happen in the news, and then you see it locally, and then you see it at school. And then, so it's like this habitual, it's like, oh, we know that already. We're familiar with that. And so you're more likely to accept something when it comes along that previously you probably would have went, what the hell was that about? What was that? I don't understand what that is. Right? You questioned it differently. And then by reprogramming yourself and going on that digital diet and taking your health back and doing positive affirmations, you can actually reprogram it. And once you can physically actually then become the observer and separate and observe your own thoughts, I think that's where the magic really starts to happen, because you realize, oh, I'm more than just this brain and this ego.
Yeah.
Maybe I am a soul having a human experience.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is a level. And it's fascinating because then you can observe without reacting. And so tell me your thoughts around that.
Oh, well, the main thing that actually was popping in while you were talking is like that in between period of, you're at a certain point, you're programmed, right? For some reason, my hand is up. I don't know why my hand is up all of a sudden. I'm going to put that down. I don't know how that happened. But you're programmed. And at a certain point, you realize it, but then you start seeing it everywhere. And then there's that, and maybe this isn't the case for everybody, but for me, it was a sense of overwhelm of like, holy crap, where do I go next? I mean, it's like, so, because it's everywhere. And so for me, that was what was popping in while we were talking, is remembering that state I was in of overwhelm of like, what can I consume? Like what, because it just almost felt like scary of like, there was a fear base to it at first for me, where I was afraid. Then I was like, well, I don't want to be programmed anymore. Like, I don't want to listen to that. I don't want to hear that. I guess, kind of stepping out of that fear and into the next steps is kind of, I guess, where my head went of like when you were talking.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's I mean, sometimes I mean, for me, I did just have to take a break from consuming things that I was afraid of in the moment to just give myself a break. Like that's kind of what I did. Like you
Go
said, a
into
detox
You go
of just,
into survival mode. I
yeah.
need to survive in a new way. I don't know how
Yeah.
to survive in this way. That's
Yep.
a really good one.
And you
Yeah.
can't, yeah, like you said, you can't unknow it. Once you're aware that the programming is all there, well, okay. And then my my thing is, well, what am I gonna do about it? And it feels so big. And and so taking a step back and recognizing your own power in it, because once you recognize, like, oh, I'm aware, I know the tricks you're playing on me now, then you have power.
Yeah.
That's the really cool part, which ended up grounding me more, is recognizing my power. And that, like, before I did have power, but I didn't know I did, right? Like when you're kind of blinded to everything and you're being programmed and all that stuff, your power is still there, you just don't recognize it. So that's the mind shift I took when I was like kind of in fear mode, is like, but now I can do something about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're unaware, you can't do anything about it. So I have a few friends that, especially over the last little while, have been in survival mode.
Yeah.
I'm trying to survive right now, and a good girlfriend just had a breakthrough the other day and started observing more about her health, because I've been saying for probably about a year, just to consider, once you start eating a little differently, you might actually feel better. And
Yeah.
she came off of meds and managed to clear herself and has been strong in that. And then having to accept that, oh, I feel anxiety right now. Oh, why do I feel it? Like, to acknowledge it and accept it and then try and work
Mhm.
through it. And she's just coming into this big health journey right now. And she jumped in both feet. And I was like, can I just tell you, I see a shift in you. Right? Because it was a big
Yes.
shift for her to not just go slowly and go from survival to, okay, now I'm ready to take control of more. What else can I take
Yes.
control of now that I've
Having
got through this one?
having someone witness the shifts is huge. And
Yeah.
like maybe, and like it sounds like you are that amazing friend for people and that support of like, I see this, I'm going to tell you so you know. In my mind, or in my experience, actually, like I've done a lot of this solo. But my journals have been huge for me, because what I was writing about even a couple months ago has evolved tremendously. And so for me, that's kind of my, like, if I want to see the progress I've made, or things that I was like thinking before, but oh nope, these 3 things cracked me open in this way, and now I'm over here. Journaling has been a huge tool for me. Or actually, another piece of that is voice recording, because some people aren't into writing, right? They're like, I don't
Yep.
want to journal. Everyone tells me to journal. Well, voice recording is another option, that is just like a journal. It's just you're doing it with your voice and you're just talking and all that stuff. So, and I think that's important, especially, when we're reflecting on kind of where we've been and who we are now. It's okay to celebrate the wins. Like,
Oh,
doesn't mean
you
there,
have to.
you
'Cause
have to, you can't
otherwise you
just,
get into that, oh, I'm not good enough yet. I'm not good enough
yes,
yet. Yeah,
yes,
you have to go back and celebrate. Oh, but look how far I've come. And then
yes.
also trust, you can't speed this process up. As much as us go-getters are like, all right,
I
go.
so badly want to all the time. And it's so funny we're talking about, we can't, and I know we can't speed it up. And there's a part of me that's like, but I'm going to try anyway.
Exactly.
And then the universe slows me down, and then it's, it is what it is. So
Yeah, it goes back to that old adage, it's not about the destination, it is about the journey, because
yes.
it's a lifetime journey. It's not
Mhm.
going to be, oh, I've arrived and now I'm done. No, not with the curiosity we have,
Mm-mm.
right? Not with
No.
that desire to learn more. I know a little bit about everything from gardening to astral projection to death, right? And
Mhm.
animals, like I have dogs that, I just know enough to read their energy, and they
Yes.
know, they're like, oh yeah, she's a good person. Like I've got a
Uh-huh.
beeline in the street towards me for attention. And the
Yeah.
owner's like, my dog never does that. And I'm like, no.
I get that all the time.
Exactly. So then you just have to like go out into the world and go, I wonder what kind of magic's going to happen today. And who will I get to interact with? And now
Yeah.
what's that one little spark or compliment that might lift somebody up in this world a little bit today? And you would be
Mhm.
surprised at what actual kind of magic can happen. Or there'll be a phone ring and the other, there's an old friend who thought you were a little cuckoo and now they're asking you questions.
It's so true. It's so true. There are things that I've said years ago that someone's like, I finally get what you were talking about. I'm like, I wasn't trying to freak you out, but I was also just speaking my truth in the moment, right? Like that's that's what all you can do really. And then later they're like, aha. And that's happened to me too, where I will recognize someone has told me something.
Yes.
And sometimes it's like a decade later, I'm like, oh my gosh, they were literally prepping me for this moment right now. Like,
Yeah. And isn't
yeah,
that called planting seeds? Right.
yes.
So I always tell people you can't go out there with a blowhorn and tell your story and what you're doing and blast all your friends and family with it, because
Yeah.
they're in their own position on their own journey. And they just might think you're a little cuckoo, but you
Mhm.
can plant seeds. Well, if you looked at it this way, I always try and get people to look at it from a different perspective, even
Mhm.
if, and even with, people in my life that maybe at some points I didn't really care for, but they were showing me something. And contrast is important to know what we do like, but it's also important to accept that no matter what, we can't just all be light. There's got to be darkness to see the light. There's got to be that yin yang, and that's
The balance.
part of
Yeah.
it. And when you can accept that, no matter what you do or where you go, you're going to run into it and just observe it without attaching or reacting to it. So
Mhm.
that to me has been a really, really enjoying this position, because I'm just like, it feels like the waters are pretty smooth, right?
Nice.
Whatever's on
Yes.
the news, I'm like, okay, right? Or somebody's freaking out about something, I'm like, okay. And how can I help? Like,
Mhm.
what is it you're challenged with? I'm like, well, what if you looked at it this way? Oh, I
Mhm.
never thought of it that way. So it's that little switch of not reacting anymore that was like the biggest switch I find so far.
Yes. I feel like I'm probably earlier on that journey this lifetime than you, where I've just recently begun doing that, where I still feel myself like in the beginning of reaction, but I catch myself and I'm like, wait a minute, like, what can I learn from this? Or what can I help with this? Like, instead of just like immediately then spiraling down into, well, that made me angry and now I'm going to do this. And I'm like, so I'm catching myself more, which
Yeah.
is lovely. Like, I'm like, so like, happy that that's happening and excited to see how that evolves. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now, where it's like I'm catching, or the mindset shift too is like, I mentioned before, anxiety. My mind shift there was, what if anxiety in your body is excitement?
Yeah.
What if
Because
it's excitement?
very similar energy,
And
right?
that has been huge. I think I read somewhere that similarly, it manifests similarly in your body in in like an atom level,
Yeah.
molecular level. Anxiety and excitement are very, very, very similar. And so if you just kind of, the way I've been doing it is like a ping of what I would initially think of anxiety. I'm like, oh, what am I excited about? What's exciting around here right now? What is that
Yeah.
is huge. That is huge. Cause then I'm able to shift into curiosity.
Yeah.
Anxiety keeps me stuck. Then I'm
Yeah.
not able to be curious. So that's been another huge tool for me, is just that mind shift.
And then remembering that's beautiful. And also remembering that that's your subconscious going, we don't know what this is too. This is something new.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to protect this body. What's going
Yes.
on? Like, so it goes into a little bit. Sometimes the unknown is the fear. And then when you push past it, it's like, what the hell was that all about? We're fine. And
Yeah,
so
we're good.
when you can break through those more and more, it becomes smoother. I know I've always done things like snowboarding and skiing and mountain biking,
Yes.
and I listen to my body. I am not afraid to get off and walk. My ego does not get to play on the mountain. I
No.
rock climb a lot. You don't get to play here. We're being really present in the body, which is
Mhm.
actually kind of a form of active meditation as well. So you get out of your head,
Yes.
you get into your body, you're doing something active, you're in nature, you're getting fresh air, and you get to be really present. But I'm certainly not, I walk my bike all the time. I'm like, yeah, no, we'll walk it this time. And then
Yep.
maybe sometimes I ride it. Also depends what kind of day am I having, right?
Mhm.
What's been going on before. I haven't been on my bike in like a month. I'm like, we're going to take it easy today.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy the climbing, the journey to get
Mhm.
to the run as much as, especially because I have an e-bike now and it's not such a grueling workout. It's still a grueling workout because I ride super fast because I have the e-bike now. Now it's like,
You're just like,
uh,
"Ah."
it makes it so much more fun. But yeah, just, and that's another thing too. If people have a mind that's super active and the manner you don't have time to get rid of your thoughts are on a perpetual little hamster wheel in your head.
Mhm.
Active meditation is one of the easiest ways to start with. And I
Mhm.
like to send people out in nature.
Yes.
Go pay attention to the trees and the bushes and listen to the birds. So use your
Mhm.
eyes, which are your cameras, and your ears, which, are your headphones, and then your speaker. Like you can talk when you're out there too. Like I talk to the birds all the time.
Oh, yes, me too.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
animal that I'm coming across, I'm like, "I love your bushy tail squirrel." I'm just like giving them compliments along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just being really present and, getting it, people will relax immediately. Also, water, like the sound of a river. If you go sit by a river, you can't help but calm down. And then I always
Mhm.
visualize, I'm like, oh, just wash it all away. Any energy that no longer serves me, just take it away. And that
Yep.
can be really peaceful and calm. And if you're brave enough, you can get inside the river and have a little wash and dunk your head under.
Yes.
And that works as for the physical body as well as the mental body.
Mhm. Mhm. Nature is huge for me too. It's so, and the trees, like they're so amazing. And I think like we are on the similar page, like they are there and they want us to be around them and to like be in
There's
community with them. And so
Yeah,
so I don't know, the term tree hugger has kind of gone through the ringer, but I'm like, I'm a proud tree hugger. I'm gonna be hugging trees
absolutely.
probably for the rest of this lifetime, because it's so, to me it's another form of meditation. You're right there, you can feel the bark on your skin, I can smell the bark, the sun is there, like just all of it. You're just so present in the moment. So yeah, I talk to the trees too, talking to animals, all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people forget too that trees are sentient beings. They have energy. Everything on this planet that's living has energy.
Yes.
They're also antennas for Earth, if you think about it that way. So the Earth is a sentient being as well. And then the trees coming up towards the sky, right? Up to
Mhm.
what we call source energy, God, whatever you want to call it. So that's like an antenna. So I think by hanging on to the tree, it's like, oh, I'm just extending my antenna. That's what I
Yes.
realize now. So we're taking it a step further than maybe some of you are ready to hear, but trust me, you might be surprised.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have a friend of mine that can go up to a tree and the tree will give him information. So,
That's
which is really cool.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
he's able to
amazing.
download like history from the tree. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
That's I believe it 100%, because oh gosh, maybe this was like a year and a half ago, and I was really connecting with nature, and for the first time in a new way. Like I've always been a nature kid, I've always been an animal kid, but really was diving in deep. And just as I was walking through a path, like a dirt path, it was just like a download or a channel or whatever it was. It was like trees hold wisdom, and
yes.
I just knew that. And it was just simple. It was just those words and that's it. And I was like, yep, That's true. That's 100% true. Like I didn't have to Google it. I didn't have to, you know what I mean? You just know it to your core. And so I 100% believe that your friend is getting that wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super cool. And we all get messages in a different way. So maybe that's something to let people know too. So for me, if something's true for me, I'll get truth bumps all over me.
Mhm.
And if it's super strong, like I can tell the level of truth of it just by that. If
Yeah.
something is not true or it's really wrong, I'll feel it in my gut. Yeah.
Mm.
And then I get hits, I'll get words, sometimes visuals. Last week it was a tornado, be the eye of the storm. So no matter what's going on around you, just observe what's going on and don't attach to it, because then you'll get caught in the storm, right?
Yep.
That's why the
Yep.
tornado. So you can be here, but if you're over here, you're gonna get taken out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I get songs all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a
Yes.
speaking with somebody yesterday, and she was saying that her family, she was odd one out, black sheep, so to speak, and her family was shaming her. And all of a sudden I got da na 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 na, can't touch this. I said, "Keep that in your head the next time you're with your family and they're shaming
Yes.
you. You can't touch this." It's like,
Yes.
it doesn't stick here.
Yep. Yep.
So so there's always little tips and tricks, and you'd be surprised how you get messages. It might be a video that shows up in your feed. It might be something you hear somebody else say. And so when you become really observant, there's messages in everything. And then sometimes I get
Everything.
strict, like stop now, or right, or it's go
Mhm.
time was the last one. Like no
Yeah.
more playing small, it's go time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I similarly, mine are kind of knowings, and it's confirmed with like similar goose
Yeah.
bumps type truth bumps um on my body. Occasionally I'll hear a little something like a clairaudient something, but that's more rare. It's typically the like clear knowing of like this is the truth of what's going on right now, or this is true for me. Occasionally if I'm like talking to somebody, something will like come in as a truth for them, and then I'm
Yes.
like, are they ready to hear this? Then that's when I have to like really discern and kind of
Yeah.
tune in with my higher self. Was like, is this for me to know about them right now, or them to know about them right now?
Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a girlfriend who took out her breast implants because of what I said. I said, "Have you had those checked? How long have you had those now?" Because it just popped in, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna say it."
Yep.
She ended
Yep.
up getting them taken out, and one was leaking. So
Wow.
yeah, so
Yep.
sometimes it's how you say it, who it comes from. Yeah, but definitely some discernment around that, because you don't want to go around acting like you're telling people what to do.
Right.
That's why I often will phrase it in a kind comment way. This happens to be a good friend where I was just super blunt because I
Yep. Yep.
yeah. But I agree. There's lots of ways. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't get that. I'm not getting any messages." I think if you're tuned in to being the observer, you're getting messages, you're just not realizing it. We all have this capacity. We
Hmm.
are all connected. We
Yep.
are all part of source. It's in our DNA. We
Yep.
are energy beings. We are not evolved apes. These
Hmm.
bodies are miracles. I
Yeah.
happen to call it my avatar because it resonates with me. Some people call it a meat suit, and I'm like, well, that doesn't resonate as much.
You're like, I don't
I
want
don't
that.
marry that. I call it my avatar, and I will say my avatar wants to go to bed now.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I have found too, because when I first started in my awakening journey and kind of remembering, I guess, more journey, was I was questioning. I was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm getting anything. I was starting to like see angel numbers and feathers and different things like that. But as far as like deep knowings, I was like, what is this? And I think what worked for me is tapping back into that childlike imagination and play so much, because kids are so open and they're little beacons, and they're like, and then like we were talked about earlier, the programming shuts that down. And
Yeah.
so I started getting more and more stronger knowings once I tapped back into that creativity and the imagination, because your imagination is actually a lot of information that's super relevant to you and your journey and everything. So that's kind of how I started kind of trusting myself and just treated it more as play, not so serious. I think something that really didn't resonate with me right off the bat was the messages that I saw on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube was so serious. And I was like, maybe it's just my soul is very playful and joyful and whatever. But I was like, if I'm using a pendulum, if I'm using whatever, I'm like, okay, higher self, show me a yes. Like I'm just, I'm just goofy and playful and all this stuff. And so, I think it does. And if that doesn't resonate you and a more serious approach resonates, do that. But the play really helped me. Really helped me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, it's using my body and being active that way. And I've done a little bit of painting. I actually have some good ideas about how to make a different type of art. And so it's a matter of using that creativity to play with it. It could be doing videos. It could be, right? It could be, whatever cooking can also, because you go into that, especially if you're putting love into it, right? You set your intention for that and setting your intention about, oh, why am I always learning something new about myself? Right. So, well, why am I always curious? And by leaving it open-ended, you leave it open for endless possibilities, which can be quite beautiful. But cooking is a good one because you go into the kitchen, you're chopping, you're active meditating, doing the dishes, an active meditation. You'd be surprised at people driving. Your subconscious is driving if you have a regular routine and you're like, you're tapped out.
I get so much while I'm driving. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And showers, when you're in the shower.
Yes.
In the shower all the time. I have a girlfriend who just got back from a Vipassana for 10 days. So that's no talking for 10 days.
Wow.
Very curious to see her. I see her on the weekend to see what's come in for her.
Oh my gosh. You should chat with her next.
And if anybody wants to have coffee with me or go have, can we go for coffee or can we go for a meal? I'm like, why don't we do a walk and talk? Because I find once the body is moving, the head, you're relaxing. It's relaxing. It's moving the energy through your body. And I find people become much more open. They don't have to sit across and look at you directly. You can be walking side by side. So you're on equal footing per se, to have an open discussion and whatever comes in. Yeah.
That has definitely been something I gravitate towards more now, like more and more frequently. People are like, let's go grab coffee. And I'm like, we can do that and carry it while we walk around this lake. But too, it's so funny that you mentioned the movement piece, because even if I, like if I'm calling a friend from out of town and I can't do that, I'm like walking around my house. And it just helps. It helps. One, I'm just more present because I'm moving my body, and then I'm also focusing on our conversation instead of like, oh, I'm sitting down and I'm making notes over here. Oh, I'm doing all this. The movement helps me stay more present, but also there's a lot of downloads and stuff happening too during those conversations that I believe are kind of helping the conversation kind of lead the conversation go where it needs to go. So yeah, it's beautiful. Movement in general is so helpful.
Yeah. I pace. I have to.
Yep.
Yeah. And an hour is about my limit, and we're coming up to that.
I was gonna say, I was like,
today.
You see me like moving around in this seat. That's what's going on right now.
Wiggle it just a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll leave it off there today, Whit, but I'd love to chat more. And I am just going to stop the recording.